Hi guys. I had a really beautiful meditation experience last night that I wanted to share with you. So, 2 nights ago, I did a breathwork meditation, and then I did one again last night. And so much had come up in the first night for release, which came out in the form of a purge and night sweats, which I haven't had any for a while, so it was very clearly because of the breath work. And then last night was especially interesting. During the meditation, we went quite a bit deeper than the day before with regard to becoming aware of the areas that were maybe hidden in terms of fears and any blockages in the chakras specifically last night. Usually when I do breathwork meditations, I don't bring the chakras into it, but for some reason last night that's where the focus was during a specific portion of the meditation. And at the end of the breathwork portion, I laid for a little while and just allowed the energy to move. But at the end of it, I was just so open and stripped that I decided to sit up and continue my meditation after the breath work for some time. I don't know how long I sat in the seated meditation, but I was in no hurry to end the meditation. What happened last night was that so much of the limited self, if not all in that moment, was stripped away, and I could feel this complete opening of all of my chakras as the energy kind of flowed really powerfully through all of them, not in an uncomfortable way, but it just felt like they were almost translucent, and there was no debris, no heaviness, and energy was just kind of moving up and down through these channels in my body. I mentioned that during my first awakening, there was a period where I didn't feel human. I was completely not identified with being human, but identified with the awareness, the non-judgmental awareness that was experiencing itself through my body. At that time, I didn't know what it was because I didn't have the terminology, but I later thought that it might have been my higher self, that it might have been, at one point the Shekinah came up because I was in a session with a shaman who pointed me in a direction that led me to the Shekinah, and then I had another reading, an Akashic Records reading, which also pointed me in the direction of the Shekinah. So as to exactly what was operating through me at the time, I accepted at one point that it was the Shekinah, but I couldn't be 100% sure because it wasn't clearly revealed what it was. All I could say that it was some divine essence that was working through me. I felt the same thing again last night after a long time of not feeling this open and this clear, this, I don't want to say detached, because it wasn't like a conscious detachment from the ego. It sort of happened naturally. There was no effort required. The only effort came in the breath work and in the releasing and the breathing into each of the chakras, releasing the fears. But when I was in the seated meditation, everything that happened from that point on was just sort of unfolding and being revealed. Some other things that happened in that moment was an immense amount of gratitude for all the beings in the physical, so incarnate as well as discarnate, that were supporting the journey up to that point. It was so clear to me how each of them played a specific role to support the journey, how there were no missteps. I remembered feeling clearly the role of Shiva and Shakti with regard to the Kundalini rising and the union experience. And I felt that deep connection to the presence of that energy in my vessel. I also felt the gratitude toward the guides, 2 guides in specific, or specifically that were revealed to me a few months ago. I don't know by name, but I can see them in my mind's eye. I have a visual of what they look like. Also, my higher self, the Shekinah, God, and every physical being or every soul that was in the physical that was a part of my journey in the past few months specifically. Some people came up from 15 years ago, 17 years ago possibly, as being significant in bringing me to the experience that I had last night. And of course, someone significant, or 2 people that were really significant in this year, being the person that I have experienced to be a divine counterpart of some sort, of which I'm still not sure, even after the union experience, as well as my mum and all the healing that I had to do around that relationship. But the reason that those were so significant was because, so there was a story. This story is going to explain the significance of that. Of this guy, I'd heard him talk about this on Gaia, at Gaia.com. I don't remember his name. But he was came out as gay in many years ago in a very small community, so it was really unheard of, and it was a very uncomfortable experience to come out as gay, but especially because his dad had rejected him, and there was so much suffering and pain that came out of that connection. Years later, when he was more consciously on his healing path, he met a shaman, and he wanted to understand why things had been so difficult with his dad. And the shaman said how much your dad must love you to play that role for you in this lifetime. And I'd heard this story years ago, maybe 4 years ago or more, and it really shifted my perspective on the role that people play in our lives, especially ones that we feel hurt by. How much they must love us to play the role that brings us to our evolution, that brings us to the stripping away of the illusory self and into an experience of who we really are beyond that self. You know, the path during my first awakening, I've mentioned a few times, has been so linear, but this time it's really been up and down and back and forth and left and right. It has not been in any way predictable. And so even though this experience last night was so significant and so sacred, as the day has gone by, I've felt more distance with that experience, but still the gratitude and the acknowledgement of it grows. I won't be doing any breath work tonight again, because I got no sleep last night because my energy, my body was on fire with energy pulsing through it in my nervous system. And so I think maybe my body needs a little bit of a break before diving back in. But I just wanted to share the beauty of what lies on the other end of the suffering. That the suffering has a purpose. I'll make a different video about that. But the suffering has its role, as much as, even I have resisted it. The ability on the other side to see exactly the point and the purpose for every single thing. Just brings grace, peace, unconditional love to every part of the journey, and surrender. I'm going to leave it there, and I wish you guys a really beautiful weekend as always, and I will see you guys soon. Much, much love.